Are you planning to migrate to Australia on a skilled visa, but don't know how to successfully lodge an expression of interest, also known as an EOI? Today, we're going to talk about how you can successfully do that, and if you make mistakes, how that can cost you. This is a guide or a process that you should follow to ensure that your EOI is successful. Even one mistake in your EOI and you're invited for it and you lodge your visa, it can result in a refusal and cost you thousands of dollars. So it's really important to make sure that everything that you're claiming in your EOI is current and correct. An expression of interest, EOI, is an online submission through the SkillSelect website. Now, essentially everyone that's interested in migrating to Australia or being invited by the government of Australia or the state governments of Australia needs to lodge an expression of interest. Now, when you lodge an expression of interest through this website, it's valid for 2 years. So just remember that since you've lodged it, your expression of interest will expire in 2 years if you haven't been invited in that time. So the EOI is not a visa application. So you can't expect that you'll have a bridging visa just because you've lodged an invitation that you'd be allowed to stay in Australia. The Department of Home Affairs has to issue you with an invitation, and only when you're issued an invitation can you accept it and then apply for the visa afterwards. It also doesn't mean just because you have applied for the EOI that you will get an invitation. So you should always have other options available for yourself if you're going to pursue something on the side. Now, when it comes to claiming points in your EOI, they're calculated based on the things that you need to cover. So age, qualification, work experience, English level. Have you done the NAATI test? Have you done a professional year? Do you have a partner? Does the partner have those relevant skills that they can contribute points for? Do they have competent English that your partner can contribute towards points for your application? So everything needs to be correct and current. If one of your documents is expired, then you may not be able to claim points for it. Now, the SkillSelect program where you lodge an EOI, you can select the visas that you want to apply for. So generally, when it comes to applying for the visas, the main ones are the 189, 190, and the 491. You can choose all of these if you want in the expression of interest. We generally recommend lodging different expression of interest. So a separate one for the 189, a separate one for the 190 and 491. And if you're applying for multiple states, it may even be more beneficial to have a separate one lodged for each state. Now, there's various reasons behind this, and it does again depend on which state you're from. Some states want you to choose only that state in your expression of interest. Some states might prioritize if you have selected only that state. We don't really know how it works internally, and that's why it's sometimes more beneficial to lodge them separately. But sometimes some states do let you know that they want to be the only one that have been selected in the EOI. Before lodging the EOI, there are some things that you need to tick off. You must ensure that you're eligible for these visas. So you must be under 45 years old. If you have turned 45, you will not be able to get an invitation. Secondly, you must ensure that you have a positive skills assessment in a particular occupation that's either on the medium to long-term strategic skill list or the STSOL, which is the short-term skilled occupation list, because you will have to select this occupation. Along with that, we would even go as far as having your reference letters and all the employment evidence ready to go as well. You should already have this because you've provided it for the Skill Assessment Authority. But let's say some time has passed since you completed the skill assessment, and there are some occupations or skill assessing authorities that don't necessarily assess the experience, like for example, solicitors. So just make sure you have all the employment evidence ready for the claims that you're making. And the final thing, make sure you have at least competent English, which is equivalent to 6 in each for IELTS and equivalent of that for other tests that are accepted. And you need that to be able to lodge your EOI, otherwise you would be ineligible. Now, if you have higher English levels, obviously you can claim more points for it, but make sure that your English test is not expired as well. You need to score a minimum of 65 points in your EOI. And a lot of people will tell you that just because you have 65 points, you should go ahead and lodge your EOI. That's not always the case. It's not worth spending thousands of dollars on your skill assessment and other processes just because you have 65 points, you go ahead and lodge it. You should be comparing yourself to other people in that occupation and what does the competition look like for your particular occupation. If the competition is low, yes, it's recommended that you go ahead and lodge it on 65 points. But if it's not low, if the competition is high, for example, you got ICT business analysts or accountants, which you need minimum 100 points to be invited on it nowadays. In that case, if you're just on 65 points, it's not even worthwhile spending money on the skill assessment process and pursuing this right now. Sometimes people fill out all of their experience as part of their EOI. Make sure when you're filling out your experience that points are not claimed for the experience that you're not claiming. Secondly, some people also claim points for Australian study. Make sure that you've met the requirements for Australian study, that they were at least 2 years if you're going to claim points for them. So that means 104 weeks in terms of your COE or total calculations. If it's across multiple qualifications, make sure that you studied at least 104 weeks, which is equivalent to 16 calendar months of study. And you can combine multiple qualifications, but make sure that they were completed while you were also on a student visa. Now, when it comes to selecting which visa you're interested in, you should ensure if you're open to getting an invitation, for example, from New South Wales for the 491, which is the regional invitation from the state, you can select that. But if you're not interested in living and working in a regional area, maybe it'll be really hard for you to find a job in your occupation in that area, then we don't recommend selecting that as an option. And then you should make sure that you keep your EOI updated. If anything changes, you should update it. If you're changing employers, you should update it. If you've got a new English test, because the previous one has expired, update it. Any documents that expire, make sure you do them and complete them before, and then update the EOI as soon as you get the new results. If, for example, a document has expired and you don't have the new document ready to attach and you get invited, you will not be able to claim the right amount of points. And if you do submit the visa would be refused because you did not have that at the time of invitation. So it's really important to make sure that any points you're claiming are correct at the time of invitation. If you receive an invitation, you will have 60 days to accept that invitation and apply for your visa. So make sure you do that within the time frame. If it goes beyond the 60 days, you will have to lodge another EOI and then wait for another invitation to be issued. After a complicated process of a skill assessment, this is very technical, although it may not seem like it, but anything that you claim needs to be correctly monitored for any expiry of any documentation or claims that you're making. If you don't keep a track of this, then it can result in very significant losses if you, for example, don't meet the criteria, and you may not get invited before your visa expires the next time round. So if you have any concerns regarding this, contact a professional to get advice and make sure you always stay on top of your EOI.